I'm Alexis.
And I'm Tiffany, and we're the hosts of Legit KidLit, a video series where we get to see into the secret and silly lives of authors and illustrators.
We love to celebrate and promote books, but most of all, we want to say hey to all you readers out there trying to find that right book for you. We hope that you can find some new reads after today. Today, we welcome Rajani LaRocca, and she is our first author on Legit KidLit. We are so excited to chat with her today and are looking forward to some fun.
Hi, I'm Rajani LaRocca, and I am an author. I live outside of the Boston area with my awesome family and super cute little dog. And I am the author of middle grade books and picture books.
Midsummer's Mayhem is her debut middle grade novel. In October, she will release her picture book, 7 Golden Rings. And next year, look for her middle grade novel in verse, Red, White, and Whole. Let's hear more about them.
My first middle grade book came out last year. It's this book, Midsummer's Mayhem. And I love it so much. I want to tell you about it. It's about an 11-year-old girl named Mimi who loves to bake, but she feels a little bit left out and forgotten in her own family because she's the youngest of 4 siblings, and all of her older brother and sisters are talented at all kinds of super awesome things. And Mimi doesn't think she'll ever be as talented as they are at what she loves. But then she finds out about this baking contest in her town for kids, and she figures if she could just win the baking contest, she can finally prove that she's not the least talented member of her family. The problem is that her dad, who is a food writer and usually helps her with recipes, comes home from a business trip, and he can't tell the difference between delicious and disgusting food, and he eats everything in sight. So without his help, Mimi can't figure out how she's supposed to win this contest. She follows some very interesting, strangely familiar music into the woods behind her house, and she meets a boy named Vic, who also loves to bake. And together they bake up all kinds of interesting treats using herbs and spices that they find in the woods. And then everyone around Mimi starts acting really, really strange. So Mimi's got to figure out what's wrong with everyone. Can she fix them? And how can she win this baking contest? I have to tell you, this was the first novel that I ever wrote, and it took me a long time to write it. It took me a year to draft it, and then it took me another 2 years to revise it. But I think it's all the sweeter because it took me that long. My first picture book is coming out in October of 2020, and it's called 7 Golden Rings, A Tale of Music and Math, and I'm so excited about it too. And it's about this boy named Bhagat, and he lives in ancient India. So he and his mom live in a little village, and they're really poor, and he thinks that he can help ensure his family's prosperity by traveling to the city where the Raja, which is what they call a king, lives, and auditioning for the Raja's musical troupe as a singer, and he's an awesome singer. So he travels to the city, and all he has with him is what they have left in the world, which is 1 coin and a ring, a chain of 7 tiny golden rings. Now these are really big, but the ones in the book are kind of small, but they're easier to see if they're big. So Bhagat goes to the city, and he has to stay at an inn, and he needs to pay 1 ring per night to stay there. But he doesn't know how many nights he's going to stay there. If he's called after the first night, that's great if he just pays 1 ring. But if he's called after the 3rd night and he's paid all 7 rings, then he doesn't get them back. So he goes to a goldsmith, and it turns out that he can get a link broken for 1 coin. The third book I want to talk to you about is a middle grade novel in verse, which means it's written in poetry. That is coming out in February, and it's called Red, White, and Whole. Now, I will tell you, it is written in poetry, but it's not really rhyming. It's called free verse, which means that The lines are pretty short, there's a lot of blank space on the page, and the reason I wrote the book like that is because it's a very emotional book and it's a very interior book. It's about a 13-year-old girl named Reha who lives in 1983, which is historical to kids your age, I know, but not to me. And she lives in a small Midwestern city with her parents, who are Indian immigrants. Now, Reha feels very American, but she's torn between the worlds of her immigrant community and school and 80s pop culture. So there's a lot of fun 80s songs in this book, and there's a lot of fun kind of thinking about 80s fashion. But then Reha's mom gets really sick, and she's torn in a completely different way. So I'm really excited to share this book with you. It's based on a lot of experiences that I had when I was growing up, but it is still fiction, so it's still a made-up story, but I really love it, and I can't wait to show you guys all that. One thing I will say is that I came to writing for kids pretty late in my life. I was always a writer. Like, I liked to write when I was a kid, and when I was in high school, and when I was in college even, but I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor. So when after college I went to medical school, and then I did training, which is called a residency, and during medical school and residency I was kind of too busy to do any more writing. So it wasn't until years later, when my own kids were older and in school, and I was established in my medical practice, that I came back to writing, and I started taking classes, and I met other writers, and they became my critique partners. And I've got to tell you, it's been a source of huge joy in my life. So if you ever wonder whether you can actually do more than one thing that you love, the answer is yes. Sometimes it takes a long time before you come back around, but it is really, really fun.
Now it's time for some questions.
Readers would really like to know, what is your most cringeworthy middle school moment?
I can't believe I'm actually telling you this. So one time, I think it was in 6th grade, and I was in English class, and I had a super old, super wonderful English teacher. I think she was about 100 years old. Okay, wait, maybe not really, but she felt like it. She was amazing, and she was super strict, but she taught us so much, and she was fantastic. So I loved her class. Now, I went to a private school where we wore uniforms. So all the girls wore skirts. They were this kind of like polyester plaid skirt, and all the boys wore navy blue pants and white shirts and, blue cardigans and stuff like that. So we're all sitting around in English class, and she looks over at me, and she calls me to her, and I was like, okay, like, what did I do? And then she takes me out of the room, and I was like, okay, like, this is, like, what did I do? I don't think I did anything bad. She tells me that the way I was sitting in my chair, I had, like, my feet propped up on, like, a metal rung underneath my chair, and she basically told me that I was flashing my underwear in class. And I was like, oh no. And she goes, I don't know if anybody else saw it, but I just wanted to let you know so that, you weren't embarrassed. And I wanted to sink into the floor and never get up again. It was like so awful. So the good news is that I don't think anybody else noticed, at least not that I ever heard. But the bad news is that I was flashing my underwear at my teacher for an entire English class. So that was my most cringeworthy moment, and now everybody knows about it. Yep, it's true, and now you know. But, don't share that with anyone else, okay?
If you designed a bumper sticker for your new book, Red, White, and Whole, what would it say and why?
So if I had to design a bumper sticker for Red, White, and Whole, I think it would say, "We belong." And the reason I chose this slogan is because my main character, Reha, struggles a lot with belonging. She feels like she's not sure whether she belongs with her family in India
or her friends in America. She's not sure whether she belongs more to her immigrant community or her school. But ultimately, music is something that really connects her to everyone in all the places that she feels like she's from. And there's a Pat Benatar song from the 80s called We Belong. And that song is really beautiful, and I do think that Reha would love it. And ultimately, Reha discovers that she belongs to all those places, that she doesn't have to choose between one or the other. And in terms of a color scheme, let's see if I can figure this out. I would love to use the colors from the book cover, which include red, white, blue, and I especially love those peachy reds. And if we could put a full moon and some stars on it, those are other kind of metaphors in the book, then that would be even more wonderful.
Oh my gosh, I love that. This bumper sticker thing totally needs to happen now. Do you have any guilty pleasures?
I don't know if this is really a guilty pleasure, but my husband always makes fun of me for it. I'm a big book rereader and TV show and movie rewatcher. So when I was a kid, if I loved a book, I would read it over and over and over again. I don't think my parents really knew because they might have worried about me, but really, like my favorite books I had read so many times I had like memorized parts of them. When I was older, I was in college and I finally read The Lord of the Rings. I used to read it every year. There are 3 books, they're each really, really long, but I would make time for them every year. But then they made the movies, which are really, really good. And then I figured I didn't really need to read the books over and over again. I could just watch those movies. And then I used to watch the movies every year. And I've kind of gotten my children to do the same. So there was definitely a quarantine COVID rewatching of The Lord of the Rings that made me very, very, very happy. Now that I have so many more books to keep up with, I tend not to reread, but I don't know. I might have to go back to old habits, but we'll see.
Let's talk food.
Mimi, the character in your book Midsummer's Mayhem, loves to bake. Do you like to bake or cook? And what if you could cook a meal for your readers, what would you make?
So I love to cook and bake. And so let's focus on the meal first because, let's get the kind of nutrition stuff out of the way. It's the summertime. It's time for fun food. So I would make pizzas. It's really not that hard to make your own pizza crust, but you can also buy kind of frozen pizza dough in the grocery store. So you thaw it, you stretch it out, and you top it with fun stuff. Some of my favorite types of pizzas to make include the classic margherita pizza, which is fresh mozzarella and basil and tomatoes, and which are like the colors of the Italian flag. And I like to drizzle it after it's out of the oven with a little bit of balsamic vinegar and olive oil and salt and pepper. Super yum. The other kind of pizza that is kind of fun that I love to make is a bacon and corn pizza, and instead of mozzarella cheese, I like to use a little bit of cheddar on that, which is kind of weird, but it's really super tasty. But then, after the pizza, we have to talk about dessert. Now, I'm not in my kitchen right now, but later on, at some point this week, I'm going to be making some double chocolate malted milk cookies that my daughter says are completely addictive. So I'm going to see if I can do a little video of us making those cookies. They're so, so, so yummy. There's something about malted milk powder in these cookies that just makes them extra, extra yummy. And these are cookies that, believe it or not, are even better like a couple of days after you make them. I don't know why. I can't tell you why it's magical, but it really is. So as you can tell, I'm a little bit obsessed with baking, just like Mimi is. I wasn't really much of a baker when I was a kid. My mom didn't bake that much, so anything I baked from a mix, which is perfectly fine, totally delicious. It wasn't until I went to medical school, and my roommate in medical school loved to bake from scratch. And so I was totally intimidated, and she was like, you don't have to be intimidated, you just have to have the stuff around and have a recipe. And so we started baking all kinds of stuff together, and that was it. Like, I caught the baking bug, and now I can't be stopped.
This next question is super serious. Are you ready? What would you do if you found a penguin in your freezer?
If I found a penguin in my freezer, first of all, I would let him know like which kind of ice cream and popsicles belong to whom, so that he didn't step on anybody's toes. Like, he would have to just kind of like eat them, eat one from each category, so that nobody would get too upset. Second of all, I would show him around my hometown and Boston. We would get him a cute little, penguin slash iceberg mask, and we would take him around to my hometown of Concord, which is where Louisa May Alcott, the famous author of Little Women and many other books, grew up. So we would take him to her house, and if we were allowed, we would go and take a tour inside. But if not, we would just show him the outside and say, that she was inspired by where she lived, and maybe read him a little bit of Little Women. We would also take him to Walden Pond, which is about a mile and a half from my house, which of course is famous because of Henry David Thoreau, who spent a year living out there by himself. We would not make the penguin live by himself next to a pond for a year, because I think that would be a little bit much for a penguin, or for kind of anybody that I know. But we would take him there. It's really beautiful. If he wanted to swim, the water's a little warm for him, I know, but he could if he wanted to. And then we would go into Boston and show him the Charles River. Maybe we'd take him to a beach or one of the harbor islands. We would have a great old time. And and there's lots of fresh seafood in the Boston area, so I'm sure he would have a wonderful time. And if he wanted to come and just like hang out in our freezer for longer, that would be great. Otherwise, we would find a way to send him to another friend in another city that he could visit.
Can we be penguins in your freezer? Speaking of ice cream and popsicles, would you rather choose ice cream or a popsicle, and why?
Now, I love popsicles, but ice cream is ice cream. Ice cream is summer. I actually just wrote a book about this. Ice cream is the real deal, man. The creaminess, the softness, the amazing flavors, and the sweetness. I love all kinds of ice cream. Some of my favorite flavors include pistachio, mango, which is so good as ice cream, cherry Garcia, and banana. Love ice cream. Love, love, love it. Oh, and I can't forget coffee Heath Bar Crunch. Super, super yummy.
Which song, when it comes on the radio, can you not help but belt it out and become a karaoke star? Bonus points if you sing it.
I'm going to give you two songs, and I will sing part of them with you, okay? The first is Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper, which was very popular when I was a kid, and I can't resist singing it. Take a beautiful girl and hide her away from the rest of the world. I want to be the one to walk in the sun, and girls, they want to have fun. Oh, girls just want to have, that's all they really want. It's some fun. When the working day is done, oh, girls, they want to have fun. Oh, girls just want to have fun. Okay, the next song that I can't resist singing to is The Reason by Hoobastank. Now I have to explain to you that I had like kind of like a love-hate affair with this song when it first came out. Like I couldn't decide whether I couldn't stand it or I absolutely loved it. The reason why I love it, part of the reason why I love it, is that I like to sing the harmony on the chorus. So I will now regale you with this. I hope you enjoy it. That I just want you to know I found a reason for me to change who I used to be, a reason to start over new, and the reason is you. That's probably more than you wanted to hear, but I hope you enjoyed it.
My sixth graders love, love, love to hear about authors' pets. So, do you have a pet? And can they do a trick?
Do I have a pet? I have the cutest pet. His name is Boomer, and I'm going to show him to you, and you're going to see him do all kinds of tricks. Ready? Here you go. Hi, Boomer. Hey, Boomy. Boomy down. Good boy. Boomy sit. Good boy. Boomy high five. Try it again. High five. Good boy. Hold on. You get a little treat for that because you're so good. Here you go. Okay. Boomer down. Boomer roll over. Oh, that was a good rollover. Boomer dance. Good boy, Boomer. Speak. Oh, good boy. That was a good speak. Okay, here's a little treat for you. Hey, Boomer, where's your tail? Get that tail, Boomy. Get that tail. Get it. Get that tail. Oh, very good. And this is the pièce de résistance, everyone. Ready? Boomer. Bang, bang. Oh, bang, bang. Note that he is dead, except that he's wagging his tail. You are a very good boy, Boomy. Okay, sit. Yay! There's a treat for you. There's a treat for you. And here's a nice little close-up of Boomer. Are you a good boy? Are you a good boy? Yes, you are. Good boy, Boomy.
All right, get ready to spin the wheel. We are giving away a copy of Midsummer's Mayhem.
Winner, winner! Yay, congratulations! If you didn't win today, you can still order Midsummer's Mayhem and her other 2 books online or from your local indie. Rajani even mentioned that she will send you a signed book plate if you listen to this episode and have ordered her books. So check that out.
And the fun isn't over. Watch part 2 for some cookie face challenges and a cooking segment by Rajani and her daughter.
To Rajani, our special guest today, we want to say thank you so much for spending time with us. We had so much fun.
To all our wonderful readers, we hope you enjoyed our show and are inspired now to pick up some new and exciting books.
And we'll be back next week with a new special guest and some crazy new fun. I'm Alexis.
And I'm Tiffany, and we're signing out.